Hi, my name is Erin Hines. This is my presentation on Charlotte Temple for American Lit for Professor DeShira. My author is Susanna Rosen. Susanna was born in Portsmouth, England in 1762. She was raised in England until 1767 due to her father being in the British Navy and made her move to America. She's an American-British writer known for her novels, playwriting, poet, educator, and activist in women's education. She is also considered to be one of the first female geographers. She was raised and taught at home by a family friend, James Otis, during her childhood. Her and her family returned to England in 1778 as prisoners of war because of the American Revolutionary War. In England, she became a governess. A governess is a woman who is employed to teach children in private and wealthy households. In 1786, she married William Rosen, an actor and singer. While working as a governess, she also was doing writing on the side. She published Charlotte Temple. The Rosens moved to Boston in 1796, where Susanna performed in the newly opened Federal Street Theater. They moved to Boston for better financial needs than what they had in England. While she was there, she wrote 2 plays, Americans in England, Lessons for Daughters, in which she performed in both. She later opened a school for young ladies called Miss Rowan's Young Ladies Academy. In this slide, I have 4 photos. The one at the top left is the theater, the Federal Street Theater that they perform in Boston. In the lower left corner, we see a drawing of Charlotte Temple. Charlotte Temple wasn't a real woman, but based off the description she gave in the book, an artist was able to create this. She was described as having pale skin and blonde hair. In the top left, kind of middle, we see this brownish covered picture. This is supposedly the first copy of Charlotte Temple, which also has this woman on the front. And this last photo we see is of Susan Rosen. This is the only portrait she has had made, and this was made while she was in charge of her school, the Young Ladies Academy. Now onto the plot of Charlotte Temple. The story starts off with Montreal, who is a lieutenant in the Navy with his companion, Brookville, back in Portsmouth after leaving America. These men are both British. This is where he first sees Charlotte in Madame Du Pont School, which is the boarding school Charlotte attends. Charlotte is now 15 with a woman's body from when he last saw her as a child with no body at 13. He is fascinated with Charlotte as she makes this impression on her as this beautiful maiden. So he writes out to her with letters saying, I need to see her again. When he makes it to her house, it's a cottage on the countryside. Then it moves into a flashback of Charlotte's father, Mr. Temple. He was a wealthy boy growing up, but since he married Miss Lucy, or now Miss Temple, his family disowned him. After this, we're taken back to Charlotte, and it shows Charlotte with her French teacher, Mademoiselle Larue, who is her governess. We see Montreal start to send Charlotte letters and gifts to show his love and affection for her. But Charlotte isn't comfortable with this, and she doesn't want to accept any of his gifts. But she's encouraged by Miss LaRue to open them and to read his letters. We later find out that he has bribed Miss LaRue to encourage Charlotte to open his gifts, read his letters, because he wants Charlotte to fall for him as he has fallen for her. So later, the lieutenant, Montreval, is leaving England to go back to the U.S. And he wants Charlotte to come with him. Now, she isn't 100%, she's not sure about this idea, and she's going to say no until her governess tells her, don't be selfish, go with this man. He loves you and he'll support you. We later find out that Miss LaRue, her governess, has fallen for Beauclerc, who is the companion of the lieutenant. So all three of them are trying to get Charlotte to come to America and become his wife. But when they make it to America, Charlotte isn't seen as his wife, she's seen as his mistress. Now, in America, Montreval, the lieutenant, leaves Charlotte alone at home while he goes to work. He's not around her. He's isolating her. Now, this causes Charlotte and Beauclerc to start to get close and become friends. And we later learn Beauclerc and Mademoiselle broke up on the ship. As he starts talking to Charlotte, he falls for Charlotte and realizes he doesn't want to be with Mademoiselle. Now, Mademoiselle has met another man named Mr. Clayton, who's a powerful, I would say, government official in America. And they get married. So now Mademoiselle has left all of them and has gotten money. Back in England, we learn Charlotte's parents do not know where their daughter is, as Charlotte didn't leave a note, as it seems. We now learn Charlotte has fallen pregnant, and since she is pregnant, she has also fallen ill. This causes Montreval to leave her, since while he was out at work, he met another maiden, Julia, and Julie has money. So that causes him to leave Charlotte, since Charlotte has no money. When she goes to get help from Miss Clayton, Miss LaRue, she turns her down and tells Charlotte to don't come back. I won't give you money. Now we learn Montreval wants Charlotte's money, and this is why he isolated her. Her parents had been sending her letters, and Charlotte wrote letters to her parents, but he burned all the letters. Charlotte then, after leaving Mademoiselle's house, is turned down. She has to give birth. Her water broke. And since she is alone, she has nowhere to go. But a servant saw the interaction and took Charlotte to the back barn where Charlotte gives birth. Now, ironically, Charlotte's father has arrived to America and finds Charlotte in the barn. So he takes Charlotte's baby back home with him to England, as Charlotte says, and with her dying breath, take care of my baby. We later see Montreval tries to kill Beauclerc because he learns Beauclerc purposely put a wedge between him and Charlotte because Beauclerc wanted Charlotte as his mistress. He wanted Charlotte for himself. So he tries to kill Beauclerc, and he succeeds. And we also see Miss Clayton has been dumped by Mr. Clayton, so she's now once again Madame LaRue, and she's a hag. She's seen last on the street by Charlotte's parents dying. They take her to a hospital, but by the time she gets to the hospital, she's dead. So Charlotte's parents and the baby go back to England, and Montreval now has to live with the guilt of Charlotte's death on his mind and his best friend's death. And he goes off with his new wife, Julie. The major characters are Charlotte Temple. She is a young maiden who is 15. She leaves England to be with John, while in America she is left alone and pregnant to die. Then we have John Montreval, who is the Navy lieutenant who falls for Charlotte and convinces her to move to America with her. But when he gets to America, he leaves her for another woman. Then we get to Beauclerc, who is Montreval's best friend. He deceives Montreval and Charlotte by laying with her without her knowledge, which causes Montreval to think she laid with another man and leaves her. Then we have Mademoiselle LaRue, who is Charlotte's French teacher at the boarding school. She runs away with Beauclerc to America and influences Charlotte to run away to be with the lieutenant. And we also have Mr. Temple, Charlotte's father, who was from a noble family but leaves when he marries Charlotte's mother, Lucy. And he also goes search for Charlotte but finds her to be dead in the barn, like I just said. Mrs. Beauchamp is Mr. Clayton's daughter, Charlotte's governess LaRue marries when she gets power. She takes pity on Charlotte and becomes her only friend in America. She also tells her father, "You shouldn't marry this woman," which is why he later divorces her. Lacey Temple is Charlotte's mother and a poor maiden. Historically, this book was written after the American Revolutionary War. She published the book in England before moving back to the United States in 1793. This book was published in 1791. Culturally, it was known as America's first bestseller. It was later outranked by Uncle Tom's Cabin, and this book was intended for women to say, don't just marry just to marry, basically. Or if you are marrying, make sure it's for the right reason. This book also caused women during this era to become more picky with who and why they're marrying. Economically, the U.S. was still kind of rural at this time, even though because of the war, we were becoming independent. So this book didn't have a major impact on the economy. The photo that I have is a cover poster to advertise Charlotte Temple. So I saw two major themes within this novel: marrying for money and guilt and remorse. The photo you see to your left is Charlotte and the lieutenant. As you can see, Charlotte, she's not trying to engage in the conversation. She's turned away from the lieutenant, but he doesn't care. He wants to talk to her, and it's clearly making her uncomfortable. The first thing I saw was marrying for money. Throughout the novel, we see three people doing this. The first one is Mr. Temple. Now, he's an example of doing the opposite. He doesn't marry for money, he marries for love. Then we see Montreal, the lieutenant, do this, but he marries Julie because Julie's family has money and power in America, which causes him to leave Charlotte. We also see this with Madame LaRue. She leaves Beauclerc, the lieutenant's best friend, to be with Mr. Clayton, who is a powerful man in America and in the government. We also see guilt and remorse. We see Mademoiselle LaRue and Beauclerc use guilt to manipulate Charlotte. She uses it, the Mademoiselle uses it when Charlotte is saying, I don't want to read his letters, I don't want to see him. She uses guilt and uses Charlotte's naive character to say, you should meet with him, he seems like a nice fellow, which causes Charlotte to talk to him. We also see Beauclerc use this because Charlotte is now alone. She's thinking it's my fault Montreal left her, so he uses that guilt to make her try to fall for him, but of course she rejects him. We see remorse when Montreal learns that Charlotte has died. He's thinking, I'm the one who set her on this path. I'm the one who brought her to America. And we later see LaRue as a hag. She uses remorse when she sees Charlotte's parents in America. And she's crying because she didn't protect Charlotte by being Charlotte's governess and keeping her away from those men. I saw three literary devices. The first one was a flashback. In the first half of the story, she uses the flashback to show us the story of Mr. Temple and how he falls for Lucy, who would later become Mrs. Temple. Then we see points of view throughout the story. She's going from England to America, back to England to show Charlotte's parents, Charlotte's point of view, LaRue's point of view, and every character's point of view about how the story is going along. We also see Tony. The story starts off like pretty calm, but then as we see Charlotte, as her path is going darker and darker, the tone becomes darker, and it comes with Charlotte moving to a new country and the isolation she's facing. Two symbols I saw was a rose painting and death, as we see. The rose painting was seen in Montreal's house, or the house he bought for them. Charlotte is looking at this rose painting, and we see Charlotte cry. And it doesn't say why, but we could guess with the symbolism that roses represent love and beauty, and Charlotte knows she's not going to get the love that she deserves being here in America. We also know, we see beauty as when she falls ill, she's pale. She has that pale, sweaty look. She's not as beautiful as when she was first introduced in the book. We also see death when Charlotte is seen last in the barn. She's giving birth, and moments later she dies. We also see this again with Beaucaire, who was killed by Montreal when he learns Beaucaire purposely turned him against Charlotte by laying in bed with Charlotte, making him think Charlotte slept with another man. This corner in the bottom left, is a photo sketched of Charlotte in the barn with the help of John, the servant who helps her. And we can see she's giving the baby to her mother and father. And with her dying breath, she's saying, "Protect my baby. Go back to England. Do not stay in America." The second photo is a rose. Now, in the story, it's not given a description of what the rose looks like, but I would perceive it looks something like this, of a rose flower. I would say it was a good novel. I said this because she shows both the positive and the flaws of each character. Like Charlotte, yes, she's a beautiful maiden, she's a wonderful girl, but she's also very naive because she listens to what everyone else is telling her, except she doesn't listen to herself at all. This was a very different read for me because as I kept reading, we could see nothing was going to get better for Charlotte. She left home. Her family did not know where she was. She became pregnant. Then she became ill. Then the man who said, "I'll love you, I'll make you my wife," has left you. Your teacher, who was supposed to protect you, has also left you and won't help you. And another man who says, "I love you," Beaucaire, also leaves her when she falls ill. So it's just, nothing ever gets better. And she has no friends, she has no family, she has no money while being in America. So it's just, nothing's going well for her. I would recommend this story to anyone to read, whether they're a reader or not, versus if they like colonial reading. It's a good read that everyone should read because this is a real story, even though the writer Susanna never says who it's about. It was based off a real person, so somebody had to go through this, whether they were a maiden from America who fell for an American or Brit, or even a French man or a British maiden falling for someone. All of these maidens from any country, they fell for these men and they said, "We will take care of you. I'll give you a house. I'll protect you." And sometimes these men didn't make through with these promises to these women. And the photo at the lower right corner is the Lieutenant Montreal visiting Charlotte's grave after they take her body back to England. I would say this is worth reading. It's very educational. I enjoyed it. I feel like others would enjoy it. But the one thing that I enjoyed and I saw is that she doesn't paint the main three people, Beaucaire, Montreal, and Madame LaRue. She doesn't paint them as villains, but as you read, you're thinking, these are the villains of this story. But she never writes them as it. But she does write them as, at the beginning of the story, Mademoiselle. She was a teacher, she had money, she was fine. Then she gained power, it went over her head. But now she's a hag or a poor woman. She draws these characters at the highest time of their life at the beginning, but towards the end, she writes them at their lowest. All three of them manipulated Charlotte, and they made her feel protected, and they made her feel loved just to turn around and harm her. I would say this is worth your time because it takes you on a journey of betrayal and greed of these characters, with Beauclair wanting Charlotte for himself and to make his mistress, not his wife, his mistress, just a side lady. And the photo I put at the bottom shows Mademoiselle LaRue when she's in power as Miss Clayton. She's in a gorgeous gown, hair pulled up, and yet we see towards the end she's dressed in rags, dirty and hungry. Well, that is all. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope, based off what I told you, you decide to read this book. Other than that, thank you and goodbye.